Hi everyone, this is Junk Journals 101. Today we're going to be talking about how to create your template, to sew in your signatures, and to actually punch the holes, and then I'm going to show you how to sew in a quick signature. So this is just basically going to be the basics on how to sew in a signature. A 3-hole punched pamphlet stitch. And then I'll show, hopefully at the end of the video, I'll have enough time to actually go and show you how to mark your spine and do your spine. Now when you're making your templates, you are marking your spine, you are it's basically going to be done the same way if you're punching through your spine or if you're punching through a piece of cardstock to put your pages in your book, or if you're doing like if you put material on the back of a piece of paper to go through a decorative piece of paper to go through to sew your signatures into. It's basically going to be marked the same way. So I'm going to show that, and then I'll go through the different how each one of them can be a little different. So let's start with your template. Your template is basically going to be the size of your insert, not the size of your cover. So this is just a file folder that I did that I had cut before, and I'm going to use it as a cover for just a little notebook paper journal. So just to kind of do a testing on sewing, and it's really easy to do, just folding up your file folder and using it as your cover to make your holes, and practice making a journal, practice your sewing, practice going through punching your holes, how to measure them, how to line them up, those type of things. And the reason why we cut our template to our paper and not to our cover is because we want to make sure our paper is the right, the holes are getting punched right in the paper. And then when you have your template, you line it up on your cover as to where you want your papers to sit to punch your holes. So, and we'll get into that a little bit. Let's start with our template first off, and then I'll bring the cover back in and show you how to do that. Okay, so right now I'm going to have one signature of paper, but this is 20 sheets of notebook paper. The reason why I'm using 20 sheets is because notebook paper is very, very thin, but it's not so thin that it's easy to punch through. So I divide it into two. I'm going to punch them, and then I'm going to set them together and sew them into the book. Okay, so that'll give you another option too. If your signatures are too thick, this is how you do this. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut our papers to the right size, and then we're going to cut our template. Our template's going to be the same as the paper that's going in inside our book, and I know I've already said that, I'm sorry. It's 7.5 by 8 inches, and then when it's folded, it's 7.5 by 4 inches. Okay, so our book cover is 7 3/4 by 4 1/4. So I make my insert a little bit smaller than my cover. I always, on my template, I always write top. I put the measurement on here to keep me straight. I always write template so I know which one I'm using. And then I put the overall dimensions of what I cut the paper to, the book insert, and the book cover. And then I save these so that if I have another journal, maybe I want to do another one just like it, or maybe I want to create another journal that's the same size. So then I don't have to go through and I have to punch another template again. Okay, measuring your paper. The first thing I do is I take my paper and I fold it the opposite direction. I take a pencil and I run my pencil along here to give myself a line that I can see. Now you may not be able to see this line on the screen. I hope you can, but I just run it along here so that I can see the line, okay? And then I open it up and I have a line there. Let me see if I can get that. There, you can see the line, okay? You can do it with a Sharpie. The problem with doing it with a Sharpie is then when you go to make your marks as to where you want to put your holes, you can't see your holes. So your marks for your holes. So I usually try to use a pencil on that, and then I can go back and make it darker later if I need to, but I usually don't need to. Once you have your holes in there, you know where you're going to be punching. So okay, so the first thing we're going to do, let me set these to the side, is we are going to find the center. Now, a lot of people don't do this. They just, they don't find the center. They just estimate or guesstimate as to where they want to punch their holes, and that's fine. It's not a perfect science. The thing that's perfect about it is you want to make sure that all your signatures are being, the template is placed on the signature the right way. That's why I always say top for the top of my page and bottom, because I always want to make sure the template is sitting the right way. Because once you mark your holes and you punch your holes, if you turn it around, they won't line up. And it happens every time. You can make it the same distance from each end, but it doesn't matter. They don't line up. So I always recommend just to put top on there, then you know which way is up. I usually try to find the center of my paper, and so a centering ruler really helps me in doing that, and then I mark the center of my paper. Okay, and then for a 3-hole pamphlet, you're going to have one center, you're going to have one at the top of your, another hole at the top of your paper, and one hole at the bottom of your paper. So at that point you can decide whether or not you want it at the 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, 1 1/4 inches from the bottom, whatever you want. So I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do 1 1/4 inches from each end. So I just go in 1 1/4 inches and just make a mark right there. Okay, so now I'm going to be able to see that I'm going to punch my holes on the line, the intersecting lines. So, okay, so let me hold this up again where we can see it maybe. Oh, there we go. You can kind of see my little tick marks there on it. Okay, the bottom one down there. Okay. So right where those intersect, I'm going to punch my line. Now, punch my hole, I mean. Now the good thing about this is, because it's not a perfect science, once you punch your hole, then that's where you're, you know, each one's going to be punched. So you don't have to measure over and over and over again. You just have to measure the one time and punch it in. Now, if I wanted to do it without measuring, what I'd do is I'd fold this in half, and then I'd fold it in half this way, and I'd make a little mark right there. Okay? When I open it up, I have a little mark. So then I can just make my mark there, and then I'd come up here and say, oh, that looks good. That looks good. Put it there. So really, you don't have to measure. You can guesstimate, you can eye it, and put it in there. Okay, so now we're going to go to punching. There is, a lot of people will take their signatures, and this is perfectly fine. You line up your template on the inside of your signature where you have the fold here, okay? I usually take a binder clip and I clip everything together. That just holds it together while I'm punching so that nothing slides around or gets moved around. I know that's where it is. So there's a number of things that you can do to punch, and I've gone through this and the basics. You can use a phone book, put it in, and punch your holes. What you're looking for is your papers to stay folded so that your needle falls right into that crease on all your papers. Okay? Just like that. It just falls right into the crease, and you just push as hard as you can, and you get in there. Okay? Some people will hold their paper to the side, up like this, and go into the side and punch kind of at an angle. So you hold your needle perpendicular and you punch through. That's fine too. That works. You can use like we talked about before, a push pin and push it through. Now if you hold it up like this, see how this comes off of the paper? The paper's down here and the template's up here. So you could get off on that, but so that's why you hold it down and then you're going to push through the paper, okay, with the push pin. That's an option as well. I have what is called a punching cradle, and this I built out of cardboard. It is a cradle that helps me to punch my papers, and it looks like I'm going to have to build another one, possibly real soon. So it doesn't last forever, especially since it's made out of cardboard. There are ones that you can purchase that are made out of wood, and those are usually a little pricey, but they last forever. Unless you have a really, unless you yourself are more inclined for woodworking, or if you know somebody who is, that would build you one. There are instructions on the internet. All you have to look up is punching cradle, and it'll show you the instructions to build one yourself. So, okay, but like I said, mine's just built out of sticky back canvas and cardboard. So, with it, and like I said, the cardboard one does break down after a while because you are pushing through the cardboard, but it's pretty steady. I've had this one for, I don't know how long I've had this one, probably 6 years, 7 years, maybe.
Possibly 10, because you built it in the other apartment. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, 7 to 10 years maybe. So it lasts quite a bit. I mean, I've made quite a few journals, and if you think about it, you're not punching just one journal. You're punching each individual signature, and then your whatever, your cover is too. So it takes quite a bit of abuse. Okay, so this just helps me. The papers stay down in here. They don't move. I put my needle right in the center of that, and I push straight through. I push straight through. And I push straight through. Okay? That section is done. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your template off, bring over your next signature or your next section of signature. Get this all lined up. Put your clip on there. Set it down into your cradle or book or whatever you're using, and punch your next set of holes. Now this one, because the hole has been punched, you have to look and make sure you're getting it in the center of the hole that you punched. But you can see it, and you just want to go through. Okay. Now I want to punch using the template. Now I want to punch my cover. So you want to be at the top of your cover. Make sure this is aligned the right way. And as you can see, sorry, I have to put my glasses back on. This is really bright. I'm sorry, the glare is so bad today. You want to line this up on your cover. Now this is a single cover. This is for a single signature and a single cover. So therefore, I can put my template, I can open it up, and I can stick it in here, aligned where I want my insert to set. Okay, and so once I have that done, I'm going to clip it where I want it to set, and I want to make sure, and then I'm going to look at each end and make sure that it's actually in the crease and everything's good. I'm going to put it in my cradle or my book or hold it to the side. I'm going to go down in here and I'm going to punch straight through. This one will punch a little easier. You're not going through so many pieces of paper. And the thickness of your paper matters as well, because if the papers are really thick too, it's going to be harder to punch. Okay, I'm done with my punching cradle for right now. Actually, I'm done with my punching cradle. You should be done with your book and whatnot that you're using as a punching thing. I'm done with my template. I'm going to set it to the side. I'm going to save it for the next book because I'm done with this, right? Okay, I've punched these signatures and they are going to line up for me. Now, to make sure that they do line up, I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to push through, putting my whole signature together, because remember we punched it in 2 sections. I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to twist and move after I put the whole thing together. Put it through, twist, and move. Now, if you have one like me that's metal, it sometimes will leave some coloration there. Over time, that'll go away. Mine is a new needle tool. Okay, so we're going to set this template to the side, and we're going to now get out our whatever string we want to use and our needle, our tapestry needle. Okay. My thread. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, I'll just have to take that off. Okay, so for your thread, how I usually measure my thread is I go once around and twice around, and that's my thread. It may be too much, but I'll show you what you can do with the threads afterwards. Okay. And sorry I'm quiet. I am threading my needle. I can't do this on camera because I have to be able to see it up close. And get it in there and then it falls out. Aha! It's threaded. Yay! Okay. Now I just want a single thread. I don't want to double my thread, but I do pull it down far enough so I can keep control of it. A lot of people will start in the middle of the book. Now what you need to decide from here, in the middle of your signatures, if you want, there's a couple options. If you want your strings to end on the inside of your book, you start on the inside of your book. If you want your signatures to end on the outside of your book, you start on the outside of your book. If you want them to end on the middle hole, you start with the middle hole. If you want them to end at the top hole, then you would start at the top hole. Now, if you want them to end at the top hole, it's best just to do not a pamphlet, what is called a pamphlet stitch, but just a straight stitch with that. So I'm going to show you how to do the pamphlet stitch, and then I can show you the straight stitch is just starting from the outside, going in, and then weaving back through each hole and ending out here and tying it off. The pamphlet stitch starts in the middle, and then there's a different step in that. So I'll show you the pamphlet stitch and then we'll go over the other ones. Okay, so I want my threads to end on the outside of the book. So I'm going to start on the outside middle hole. Okay, so I go through the middle hole and I find my hole in the paper. So I go in through the middle, up through the middle of the holes, okay? Pull it through, but you're going to leave a tail. Okay? And what I usually do is I hang on to the tail. So then I'm not going to be pulling it through when I go through my next hole. Now, from here you can decide, again, do you want to go down or do you want to go up? It doesn't really matter. You're going to end in the middle where you started, right? So I'm going to go up. I go out through the inside, through the cover. Okay? I'm keeping it pulled and making sure there's no give in this string. This string is tight in there, right? Okay. I'm going to skip the middle hole and go down to the bottom hole. And you go through both of them, the cover and the insert. Okay. And pull it tight. Make sure you're hanging onto your thread that you started with, right? And make sure you're pulling. At this point I had to pull a little bit more of that string out, so make sure you pull that I had on my, it's a single thread, and make sure it's tight. Again, pull it tight with that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back through the middle hole. Okay, you want to try to avoid catching any of that thread that's already there. Go ahead and go through the middle hole. Whoops, I had both the string and the needle, and pull. Okay, pull it tight. Okay, now we're on this side. Okay, you have a middle thread here, and whether you're in the inside of your signature or the outside of your book, you have a middle thread here because we skipped the one side and we came, or the middle hole when we came back through, and we sorry, I'm losing my words today. Please forgive me. You want to make sure that you're on each side of that string. So when you come through, if you're not there, just take your needle and go on the other side. One string should be on one side of the middle thread, and one string should be on the other side of the middle thread. Okay? Now you're going to pull this tight. You want it pulled tight. If you have to, come over to this side and pull on that, the top string, pull on it, and then pull on your strings again to make sure that's tight. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to tie this in a knot. So right around that string. Okay? So I went right over left. So then I'm going to do left over right. And use your needle to get your thread through if you need to. And tie a knot. Okay? There we go. We sewed, made a book. And on the inside you have 2 stitches running up and down. 2 stitches. And they're tight. See how they bounce back? That you want. Now you don't want it so tight that it's going to tear your pages and it's going to cut through your pages. You want it tight enough though as the string gives with use, though, that it's going to not loosen up too much with it. Now if you notice, I have a lot of string here. So if you don't want a lot of string left, you would just go around up once, down the other side, and then give you a little bit of tie-off string. That's all you really need. You don't need a whole lot of it. But I like using this as a bookmark. So what I normally do is I'll go ahead and tie this off again because I like to make sure it's really tied in there. And the knot isn't that bad in there. I usually make this one a little longer too, so I have 2 running over the back. But what I'll do with this one, because I didn't do that, is I'll just cut it off right here. Well, maybe I'll do a dangle.
Yeah.
Just leave it on there and just do a dangle. The other thing is too, is if you decide that you want to cover this, cover your strings, you can always glue it into your underneath your cover too. So just leave it on there. And then this one pulls up around and it comes over the book, and so then as you're using your book, you can mark your place as to where you are. Now what I'll usually do at the end of this is I'll put some sort of decoration. I'll put a bead or something at the end of this, a little charm, something, just so it has a little bit of weight to it and hangs off the end of the book. It also ties off the string like in a knot so that it doesn't unravel, because this crochet thread does have a tendency to unravel in the larger, the 3. The 10 one seems to be a little it's thinner, the size 10 thread, so it doesn't unravel as easy. So, okay, so that's how we sewed in the one signature. Now you're ready to decorate your cover and decorate your inside and everything. And if you want me to show you how I built this cover, just let me know. I can do a quick little video on that. That's not a problem. The other thing you can do with this string too is you can wrap it around and it keeps your book closed. So, and then your little dangles, you can hook over underneath your string that you're wrapping around like that, and the weight of it will actually keep it tied in there. Okay, so there we go, a little book. Now let's go to doing our signatures in a hardbound book if you're going to go through your actual book, right? Okay, so I am going to show you how I do that. I'm going to actually do another video where I do the signatures, but I want to talk about this because I don't want it to be overwhelming for anybody. So I'm going to talk about it. And then if you have questions, then I can come back and answer your questions in the next video while we do this. What I do is I find, if I am going to do, this is the cover that we built, right, from the gutted book. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to find the center of my spine. I know that my spine is 1 inch from side to side, right? So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to make a mark here. It's a 1/2 inch here, a 1/2 inch here, right? So this is my center mark. So I made a little mark. And then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to do the same measurement. Get it centered. And I'm going to make me a little tick mark above and below my ruler. Okay, same down here. Above and below my ruler. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to line up on my tick marks, and I'm going to draw me a line. A very faint line. That's my center mark. Okay? From there, I'm going to draw a line. This is going to be a 3 signature book. So I'm going to draw a line 1/4 inch on each side from that center line. So I'm going to make a tick 1/4 inch on each side of my center line. Okay? Doing above and below. The ruler. That gives me enough tick marks that I'm able to line up. Okay, so now I'm going to make me another faint line and another faint line if I can see my tick marks. Make them dark enough to where you can see them, but if you don't have a light book, just make them light enough where you can erase them too. They probably won't show that much because your signatures, of course, are going to be right there on top of them, okay? So these are the lines for the signatures. This is a 3 signature book. So we're going to have one set of holes that is going to be marked and punched on the center line, and then on this line and on this line. So I have 3 lines in there, okay? Let me see if I can pick this up. The pencil is just so faint. Okay. Okay, I think you saw that. I'm going to get out my, this book here. Because this book here, I made to do 4 in. But I made it because I'm going to do it on watercolor paper. Whoops. I just dropped that. Okay, so this watercolor paper, I think, is going to go on the inside of my book. I don't know. Okay, let's not do that. Let me just take, hand me just a piece of that paper right there. Just the
line paper or the one under?
No, the plain paper.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you on this cover how to do a 4 signature book. Okay, so again, you're going to find your center. Your center is going to be between your spine. So it's this spine to this spine. Okay, just the width of your spine. Do not include the gap that's between your spine and your covers, because that is going to, that you're not going to, you don't want your signature sewn into that area at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do again is I'm going to mark my center, right? My center line. But here, because I have 4 signatures now, I am going to mark a 1/4 inch on each side of the signature mark. Okay. And then I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch. You can decide that. You can decide whether you want a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch from that mark that I made. Okay, so what that is, let me do that again for you. You have a 1/4 inch on each side of the center mark, top and bottom, and then from that mark that you just made, you're going to go out a 1/2 inch from there. So we're going to have a series of dots. Okay, I'll do it again. So we have our center mark. It's going to be a 1/4 inch from the center mark on each side. Make a dot on the bottom and the top of your ruler. And then from those marks, go a 1/2 inch and make a mark. Okay? Okay, so we have all these dots. And they're kind of hard to see too, but let me show you the dots, okay? See the dots there? They're a little easier to see, maybe. Okay, so now I'm going to make a line. I'm going to line up all my dots running vertically up and down, okay? So we'll do our first one. We will do our second one. And we will do our third one. And then our fourth one. Sorry, I skipped that first two. Sorry. That's okay, though. Now you know what we're doing, right? Okay, now, those are my lines that I am going to use to punch my holes. And at this point, we need to make sure that they're even on top and bottom, that they're straight up and down. And if they're not, then we need to make sure that we correct that. Okay, so turn your book to the side. Line up on the top and the bottom. Make sure your ruler is straight and put it on the line. Yeah, we're a little off on that line. Okay, so make sure that you, because I did get off, I'm sorry. Make sure you, when you go to draw your line, that you're lining up with the top. You've got a line on your ruler that's lined with the top and aligned with the bottom, and you're making it straight. Use the dots as a guideline to where to place your line. It really, again, it's not a perfect science, but it does help to get your signatures straight on your spine. You will use these methods for whether you are sewing your signatures directly into your spine or whether you're sewing them into another piece of material or piece of paper that's actually then going to be put in your notebook. Okay, now from here, what we would do is we would make a template the size of your inserts, right? And then you will take your insert template. Okay, if I can find my template. Now this is the template that I made for show, not for this actual book, but it works the same. So you have your holes here. What I do is I make them dark so I can see them. I just paint them dark with a Sharpie, with a marker, something that I can see. because what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it on this line wherever I want my signatures to be. I will make a top line and a bottom line once I put my signature on there and I decide where it's going to be so that my signatures all line up, right? I'm going to make a mark at that hole, this hole, and this hole. Okay? If you are using, let's say instead of the 3-hole, because we have a lot of things in our signatures. We've got short pieces of card, we have paper bags, we have other things that we want to make sure that we get sewn into our signatures. 3 holes a lot of times are not enough holes to make sure you're sewing everything in. So you want to sew in, or you want to make a 5-hole